What's going on, guys? MMA Outlaw back here with another video, and today we are going to be talking about every single fight that happened last night at UFC London in the O2 Arena. Movsar Evloev versus Lerone Murphy, and boy, do I have something to say about this main event. And so let's get right into it, starting with the main event of the evening, Movsar Evloev versus Lerone Murphy. And let me tell you guys, Movsar Evloev won this fight by majority decision, as you see right here. And I do not know how the fight was scored this way. Seriously, I think Lerone Murphy very, very clearly won round 1 and 2. Movsar Evloev squeaked out round 3. In round 4, there was a point deduction for Movsar, and that would make it so the best Movsar could get is a draw. He won round 4. He won round 5. So, yes, Movsar won 3, 4, 5. But with the point deduction in the 4th, the only thing that this fight could have been, like reasonably so, would be a draw. And I do see, like, there are arguments for Lerone Murphy in here. Let me show you what the judges' scorecards actually looked like. Right, so Ben Cartledge gave round 1 to Movsar Evloev. The only round he gave to Lerone Murphy was round 2, which is crazy. That is crazy. Derek Clearly with the same exact scorecard. What the hell is this? And you see these comments right here. Lerone won the first 3 rounds. I'm sick. I agree with this comment right here. I'm even going to throw a like on it as we speak. You know, clearly Lerone Murphy won rounds 1 and 2. Like no one. You heard the commentary. I know the commentary was biased. I'm curious what this person. I have Movsar up 3-2 as well. The commentary was talking Movsar needs a finish. Lerone won round 3. I really do believe that Movsar won round 3. But 1 and 2 were very, very clearly Lerone Murphy's rounds. With that point deduction, the only judge who got this fight right is Clemens Werner, who scored the fight 47-47. This fight should have been a draw. I know that would have been anticlimactic. I know that's not exactly what the UFC wanted out of this, out of a main event. But unfortunately, sometimes that's how it breaks out. Movsar Evloev did not deserve to win this fight. And now Movsar Evloev, and this is something that I do have to say about this fight. If Evloev goes out there and fights Alexander Volkanovski, he is going to get absolutely destroyed. He is going to get destroyed. The Evloev that we saw tonight against Lerone Murphy is nowhere near good enough to compete, even be in the same octagon with Alex Volkanovski. And actually, I know we got to give the title fight to Evloev is how I'm feeling, right? Like we kind of don't really have an option because he is 10-0 in the UFC, 20-0 in his MMA career, and absolutely, he is an incredible fighter. Beat Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez took the fight on 4 days' notice, albeit, but he's beat the who's who of the featherweight division. But honestly, I would not be upset if they gave the title fight to Gene Silva. Gene Silva would provide us with an entertaining bout. We know there's a manner in which he could potentially defeat Volk. If Gene Silva found the chin of Volk, he could potentially win. Evloev, he's going to get killed if he goes out there against Volk. Volk's movement is going to be too much. We saw Lerone Murphy's takedown defense was great until Lerone Murphy hurt his hip. Lerone Murphy hurt his hip in rounds 3 and was not really able to keep it going in rounds 4 and 5. And so I do understand, a majority decision win by Evloev. In my opinion, this fight should have been scored a draw. There's no world in which this fight wasn't a draw, in my opinion. I think it was pretty clear. Can we go round by round here? I mean, Murphy outstruck him. More significant strikes, more attempts, was the more active fighter, controlled the octagon a bit. Again, round 2, same exact thing. Lerone Murphy more accurate. Not necessarily more accurate, but throwing more punches, higher volume, landing more. Round 3, we started to see it get a little closer. Evloev, I believe, won. He had that little flurry at the end of round 3, absolutely started to put it on Lerone Murphy. And the 4 and 5 were very, very clearly Movsar Evloev's rounds. But an embarrassing scorecard for the UFC. That should have been a draw. Honestly, I want to see this fight again, but you'll have to wait and see who I have these guys fighting. Check out my video that's going to drop tomorrow on who every single person should fight after this event. And so, moving downward, Luke Riley against Michael Aswell Jr. And, this fight actually looked kind of exactly how I predicted it. Michael Aswell Jr. is going to go out there and try and put a lot of volume on Luke Riley. You see that 233 significant strikes attempted. This was a very, very close fight in terms of significant strikes landed, but you could just tell. This was a unanimous decision, 30-27 for Luke Riley. You could just tell when Luke Riley was landing, he had more power on his shots. It was taking more of an effect on Michael Aswell Jr. And he was just a little bit more technical, a little bit tighter in the way that he was striking, and thus the product out there looked a lot better. And so Luke Riley got the unanimous decision done. That moves me to 2-0 on my predictions. Evloev by points was one of my best bets, so I'm very happy with how that fight was scored. But definitely should have been a draw. Definitely should have gotten definitely should have been a push. But Luke Riley. Versus Michael Aswell Jr. Incredible fight. Great win by Luke Riley. We should absolutely start to see him move up within the featherweight division. A great English prospect we have on our hands. That moves us to 2-0 in our predictions. And so moving down, our first loser of the night, Michael Venom Page versus Sam Patterson. And you see this, the full fight, Michael Venom Page landed 33 significant strikes. The full fight, Sam Patterson landed 25 significant strikes. This was one of the most boring fights I have seen in a long time. Commentary, give me a second, my mouth is getting a little dry, but commentary was talking about the only fight that was like less active than this one was a Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis matchup. And you do not want to be compared to that fight at all right there. And so MVP with, an utterly uninspiring performance. Sam Patterson thought he was going to maybe be able to get some of those takedowns going. Unanimous decision win for Michael Venom Page. I thought this was certainly a possibility. He could outpoint Sam Patterson on the outside, but I thought we should take a dog shot here, and thus moving ourselves to 2-1 on the predictions. We did say we'll sprinkle Sam Patterson as a best bet, and so that moves us to 1-1 on our best bets. We had a great day on our best bets with a lot of plus money involved, and so good, I wouldn't even say good effort between these two. One of the worst fights I've seen in a long time. MVP talking all this crap. Oh, I only got a Sam Patterson. I deserve more than this. MVP, shut up. Take your fights and actually do something with them. Give me a good performance, and then we can start to move you forward. And so, Barneski taking on Austin Lane. I really don't have much to say about this. Austin Lane has a chin of dust. Barneski went in there, looked good for the 28 seconds that he was in there. Absolutely KO'd Austin Lane, out cold Austin Lane. Are we going to see you on this episode of the UFC Chopping Block? You're going to have to wait and see it until tomorrow's video. But Iwo Barneski, great win, coming off of a win against Ibo Aslan as well. So just building upon his career. Doesn't mean much to beat Austin Lane. I'd love to see Barneski get back in there pretty fast. But good on him. Did what he should have. Knocked Austin Lane out in 20 seconds. And so, moving onward, Roman Dolidze versus Christian Leroy Duncan. And so this gets us into our next best bet. We had Christian Leroy Duncan by points. It was something like plus 155 to plus 170. Incredible value here. And this fight played out exactly how I expected it to. Roman Dolidze was going to shoot around, look for the takedowns. You saw Roman Dolidze giving his back at times on the feet, Granby rolling on the feet. He almost reminds me of just like a slightly more polished version of Paul Craig. I think Paul Craig has better jiu-jitsu finishes. I think Roman Dolidze has some better wrestling. And Roman Dolidze probably has a better chin as well. CLD looked very, very good on the feet. I will say, though, at times Roman Dolidze did control. I want to see how much did they have control time. They don't have control time here as a statistic. But round 3 would be the round that Roman Dolidze won. I believe 2 judges gave it 29-28. Maybe all 3 judges gave this fight 29-28. I did expect CLD to kind of separate himself a little bit more from Roman Dolidze. Roman Dolidze, really uninspiring performance. Looks like he doesn't want to be in there at times. It's really frustrating when you have these guys. They're clearly jiu-jitsu guys. They don't really have much else to offer other than be on the ground, right? And you saw CLD every time, every time Roman Dolidze Granby rolled, was laying on his back, just started to kick the legs, then let him back up. And on the feet, there was an absolutely massive advantage. CLD is a very explosive striker, a very, very impressive striker at that. And, satisfied with CLD's performance, would have liked to see him separate himself a little bit more. but it moves us to 2-1 on the best bets. And those two best bets that we've won, one was a -110, the other one is a +175. The only one we lost was a +160 so far. And so, in addition to just the best bets, we're 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1 on our predictions. And this gets us into another best bet, a +185 to +200 underdog. Danny Silva, another prediction that we are getting right with the underdog money. You know, we cashed out on this card if you follow the best bets, taking on the prospect Curtis Campbell in his first UFC fight, the Pink Panther. I just knew Danny Silva was going to be a little bit too much to deal with on the feet. I remember Curtis Campbell went back to his corner after the first round, and they were giving him a lot of positive words of encouragement, saying, hey, this fight is going exactly how we want it to. And I did not feel that way for Curtis Campbell. Danny Silva looked great in the wrestling transitions. The scrambles were incredible. Curtis Campbell could not hold Danny Silva down. And on the feet, Curtis Campbell, when he used his kicks, looked a lot better. But Danny Silva, you could see as the fight was going on, was starting to walk Curtis Campbell down. And as Danny Silva started to walk Curtis Campbell down, the punches really started to land. The boxing from Danny Silva was incredibly impressive. I was very happy with Danny Silva's performance. That moved our best bets to 3-1 on the night. That moved our predictions to 4-1. And Danny Silva was a huge underdog. And so we took a lot of underdogs as our best bets. We took a lot of underdogs on this card. You know, Evloev by points. Sam Patterson did, in fact, lose. CLD by points. Danny Silva to get the job done. 3-1 on the best bets. And how many fights on the main card? I'm sorry, I'm losing track because I'm just yapping away. 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. And so moving on to the fight of the night, an absolute scrap. Axel Sola versus Mason Jones. This was in a barn burner. If you want your friend to be a fan of the UFC, make them watch this Mason Jones versus Axel Sola fight. Mason Jones is a wild man. I thought maybe you would take a different approach to the way that he fought like a Jeremy Stevens fighting an Axel Sola. Axel Sola in the first round looked very, very good, very, very technical. He even dropped Mason Jones at a time. Started to get off some grappling a little bit in the first round. But Mason Jones's ability to kind of just move forward with pressure, land with power, and build into the fight was absolutely incredible. You saw he cut up Axel Sola towards the end of round one on right under his eye, and he points at Axel Sola, kind of gives him a little chuckle, laughs at him, and then keeps on moving forward like a wild man. I thought he was going to finish the fight towards the end of round 3 there. He was hitting Axel Sola with huge knees to the head, knees to the body as well, just unloading on Axel Sola. And you see, I'm kind of curious, how many he threw 120 strikes in round 3. An absolutely incredible performance from Mason Jones. You know, these guys won a fight of the night for a reason. It was an incredible fight to watch. Honestly, one of the best fights that I've seen in a long time. Very, very happy with Mason Jones' performance. Another one of our best bets. Again, I know Mason Jones was probably, I think, the biggest chalk that we took as a best bet. Another prediction correct, moving to 6-1 on the predictions, 4-1 on the best bets, and just absolutely incredible from us, and very, very happy with how this card went. Mason Jones, a great fight. Would love to see Mason Jones get back in there in a few months and have another great scrap in the lightweight division. He is really making a name for himself in the UFC after leaving the organization, mutually parting ways with them. And he gave a great speech at the end. If he said, whether you're gambling or whether you're in sports, always double down, believe in yourself, believe in your process, believe in what you're doing. A great message from Mason Jones and a huge win, moving our predictions to 6-1 and our best bets to 4-1. And so moving on, Nathaniel Wood versus, I don't know why I just can't pronounce Keita's first name, so I'm just going to say Keita, against Keita. And Nathaniel Wood getting the job done by split decision, and I do think this was the correct decision. I do believe, I'm saying Nathaniel Wood rounds 1 and 3. If you look at round 1, landed the more significant strikes, attempted more significant strikes, kind of was moving forward. You could see a better defense. Keita was definitely winging wild punches. However, you know, winging wild punches and missing doesn't earn you any points, in my opinion, right? And I do believe round 3 was pretty clear in the favor of Nathaniel Wood. I believe Keita took round 2, and that's my assessment of the fight. I think Nathaniel Wood won this fight, you know, by winning rounds 1 and 3. I think it was honestly a little bit boring. It was very, very technical. You could see both these guys are pretty hard to hit. You can see Nathaniel Wood is an incredibly good fighter in the UFC. He moves to 11 and 3 in the UFC with this win. They gave Keita a really, really difficult matchup for his first UFC fight. And so I don't believe Keita loses much stock at all from this performance. If anything, I think he gained some stock, showed that he could go 3 hard rounds with a very, very talented fighter like Nathaniel Wood. And again, we picked Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood was plus 200 as an underdog. The TSR model loved him. Just wait until my website comes out with the true skill ratings, because Nathaniel Wood is up there. He's a very, very talented fighter. And we took Nathaniel Wood to win. We took this fight to go the distance as our 2 best bets, and both of them absolutely smacked. The fight to go the distance was plus 100. Nathaniel Wood to win was plus 200. That moves our best bets to 6-1 on the evening. And that's 6-1 with multiple plus 155s, plus 200s, plus 100. We're not just taking heavy chalk for our best bets. And so 6-1 on the best bets thus far, looking really, really good on the predictions. I believe that moves us to 7-1 on the predictions thus far. And then so moving downward, Mario Pinto versus Felipe Franco. I was so disappointed with this performance by Mario Pinto. First of all, obviously I picked Mario Pinto, but let's just say Mario Pinto is a minus 900 favorite. We saw Felipe Franco lose on Dana White's Contender Series before his UFC debut. And Mario Pinto, he's had great performances. He beat Johannato Diniz, an incredible kickboxer, who he was able to take him down in the first round and eventually KO him in the second. I don't remember who Mario Pinto fought before that, but he absolutely murked them, destroyed them, was able to knock them out. And Felipe Franco, he showed a really good performance for himself. Honestly, took this fight on short notice. Mario Pinto, I know he was supposed to fight Mick Parkin, but I'm not going to make excuses for this guy. Mick Parkin is a plottier guy that was just going to move forward and stand in his face. Felipe Franco is definitely more athletic, has better lateral movement, but Mario Pinto does not get excuses for this horrible of a performance. I'm glad that he won, got a prediction correct, but I really don't have much to say. He was just going for takedown after takedown. Felipe Franco had great takedown defense. He was able to get him down for moments, but Felipe Franco popped right back up. You see that, attempted 14 takedowns. He was pretty accurate in his strikes, but honestly, I think 166, I feel like they got to revise these strikes. I do not feel like Mario Pinto was that active. And if you watch this fight was pretty boring because Mario Pinto wasn't that active. He was just going for takedowns, holding against the fence. There were not very many significant strikes thrown throughout this fight. I do believe Pinto, I think they made this fight 29-28. I don't know what round Felipe Franco won. I think Pinto definitely won 30-27, but this fight was horrible. Honestly, this fight was very horrible. It was a boring watch, and I don't really have much to say about it. I think Pinto, he needs to continue to build himself. I'd actually love to see that Mick Parkin fight get rebooked, and maybe that's how he moves forward. But moving onward past Mario Pinto, Montas versus Antonio Tricoli. And I told you guys, this was the fight that was worth the 5-minute sweat. This fight to start round 2. I took this fight actually over 1.5 at plus 190. I told you guys, this was another one of the best bets. The best bets moved to 7-1. Another big plus money hits for us. Tricoli, he got finished in his last 2 fights in the first round. But Montas, while he is very explosive, does have a lot of power. Tricoli's bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Tricoli's bad. But he has some survivability instincts. And you saw some of that in round 3. Actually looked pretty good at times in the fight. Came off the stool, threw some hard punches to start round 3. Even got a takedown, had some ground control time. Let's see, I think one of the judges actually gave Tricoli round 3. And so, an okay performance from Montas, right? He was minus 260 to win this fight by knockout. And so definitely people were, thinking Tricoli would just go in there, get a free paycheck. Tricoli is a professional poker player, so he's got that poker face on, pretending like he's a fighter. But Montas, showed this was the first time that he even entered a third round, I believe. So showed he could go the distance. I do believe this is not an incredibly impressive performance. I want to see Montas take a small step up in competition, and I may even pick against him in his next bout. But, a good win for himself over Antonio Tricoli. Was able to maintain pretty sound defense. At times, he was getting cracked a little bit, but for the most part, I mean, Montas was in total control pretty much the entire time, except for a little bit of ground control time by Tricoli in the third. And so a good performance by Montas. I do believe, I know I picked Montas and I had the over here as well. I do believe that moves us to 7-1. 7-1 or 8-1 on our picks. Let me just go through overall picks. We had Evloev, we had Riley, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1 here, 5-1, 6-1, 7-1, 8-1, 9-1 overall so far. And then we had this fight to start round 2. That's one winner right there. We had 2 winners in this fight, the Wood and the decision, fight to go the distance. So that's 3. We had Mason Jones. That was 4-0. We had Danny Silva. That's 5-0. We had CLD by points. That's 6-0. We had Sam Patterson. That's 6-1. We had Evloev by points. So yeah, 7-1 on the picks thus far, and then 9-1 on the overall predictions. And Louis Sutherland is the one that let us down, a plus 250 to plus 200 underdog, depending when and where you got it. I thought Louis Sutherland could potentially march down Brando Perisic and strike with him. Clearly, Louis Sutherland was terrified of the strikes. They had this as only 3 takedown defenses, or 3 takedowns attempted. I feel like Louis Sutherland was shooting for his legs every 2 seconds. And this fight only really lasted about 2 minutes. It felt like Louis Sutherland was just terrified of being on the feet with Brando Perisic, which is something that we have not seen from Louis Sutherland. Louis Sutherland traditionally likes to, move forward, stand up really tall, box with people on the feet. I thought, he was maybe going to be able to scrap with Brando Perisic, but I feel like he just kind of gassed himself out going for some of those takedowns at times. And when you gas yourself out going for takedowns, you're really not going to be able to win a fight, especially in the heavyweight division. He was able to get Brando Perisic down for 1 second. Perisic propped right back up. And really, it seemed like after that, Louis Sutherland did not want to be in there. He did not have the will that it took to keep on going and moving forward. So Louis Sutherland moves our best bets to 7-2 and our predictions to 9-2 as well. And so moving down to Shamrock versus Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi. I did tell you guys to take Shamrock. That was one of my predictions. Shamrock was not on the best bet list, but Shamrock looked pretty good in this. I believe it was the second round. Oh no, it wasn't the second round. Shamrock landed a front kick up the middle. And I was like, okay, Shem. He started using some of those longer kicks, that left kick, and he started to look pretty good. But Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi got on the inside, was boxing up Shamrock, was able to move around laterally very, very effectively, and then kind of blitz inward and just beat up Shamrock. Shamrock does not really have much power, and he wasn't able to get Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi to the ground and, really keep him there. He did have that one takedown. He tried to take the back. He fell right off of Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi. And so, I really do believe that we kind of have seen who Shamrock is now at this point. And honestly, I've been very disappointed with Shamrock at this point in his career in the UFC. I do believe he's one fight away from getting cut. And so I'd love to see Shamrock turn out a better performance. But Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi kind of stayed out on the outside, pranced around, blitzed in when he needed to, and was just incredibly effective with the strikes, was a much more accurate puncher. And so Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi got the win there, moving our picks to 9-3. And then Chanel Dreyer with an absolutely great performance. I'm not going to speak about this one too much. Ravina Oliveira swinging big old overhands, big old meaty overhands. And so, honestly, not a great performance from Ravina Oliveira. Not too happy with the way she went about her business. Swing, big overhand. Chanel Dreyer kind of just sat around the outside, picked her apart, and eventually got the KO in the second round. You see Chanel Dreyer is a much more accurate fighter. Ravina Oliveira, really all she can do is I was honestly a little bit impressed with how hard she was swinging her punches. Like, if she nails Chanel Dreyer with this, she could really, really hurt her. But Dyer, was very responsible with her guard, kind of shoulder rolled, was able to just kind of wing it off, and Ravina Oliveira really had nothing to offer technically, and Chanel Dreyer just absolutely beat her up because of that. All she had was a big right overhand that she just kept on throwing, and so Chanel Dreyer, got a performance of the night. Bonus, much deserved, a great knockout. We don't really see knockouts in the women's strawweight division, and so great performance from Chanel. She was a minus 450 favorite, and we saw why in this fight. And so that moves us to 10-3 on overall predictions. And what were we? We were 7-2 on our best bets. And so for our best bets, just to scroll through, just say it again, for our best bets, just to scroll through, we had an absolutely incredible run. Movsar Evloev by points was our first best bet, going 1-0. We had Sam Patterson, did not get the job done for us, but a plus money underdog and moves us to 1-1. CLD by points was one of our best bets, moves us to 2-1 and a big plus 155 winner. Danny Silva moves us to 3-1 as one of our best bets. He had that great knockout performance. He was plus 180 to plus 200 depending on your book. Mason Jones with a big win for us moves us to 4-1. He was minus 130. Absolutely great performance. Nathaniel Wood moves us to 5-1, and the fight to go the distance moves us to 6-1, a plus 200 and a plus 100 to move us to 6-1. We had Tricoli versus Montas over 1.5, and the fight to start round 2. Great, absolutely great bets. Those bets were, I believe, between plus 200 and plus 175. That moves us to 7-1, and our lone loser on the prelims, Louis Sutherland, did not get the job done. But again, he was a plus 200. And so we're taking underdogs, and we're winning. We're winning. And so a great weekend from us in the best bets department, a 10-3 overall record on the predictions, and a great fight. Great round of fights. We had no submissions on this fight card, so we didn't even have the chance to nail the cycle parlay. But Evloev versus Murphy, a very good fight. I wonder if we're going to see Evloev for the title shot next. I'm unsure about that one. But, man, I really believe that fight should have been a draw. I believe Lerone Murphy got screwed in his home country. But nonetheless, very exciting performances from guys like Danny Silva, Mason Jones with one of the best fights I've ever seen, an absolute war. And so a great fight card, and looking forward to the one next weekend. So if you enjoy content just like this, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know who you guys thought won the main event in the comments section. And I appreciate you guys for always checking out the content. If you're looking for more content, MMA Outlaw TV on Instagram, on YouTube, and on TikTok. And so I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.